I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for how this has unfolded thus far, and I want people to know that they can trust me and that I'll always take care of the fans and people who support me.
What's up, y'all? Logan here. As an avid collector and strategic investor myself, I am so stoked to announce the launch of Liquid Marketplace, a platform where collectors can buy and sell fractions of rare collectibles via tokens on the blockchain. As a co-founder of Liquid Marketplace, I believe we're set to level the playing field by allowing anyone to own a piece of the world's rarest collectibles and build their portfolios in.
This latest twist in the Logan Paul Pokémon saga really makes you pause and ask, how did this spiral like this? What started as a flashy flex from a big-name creator slowly morphed into something way more complicated and honestly uncomfortable. At first, it looked like another high-roller collector moment. Now, it feels like a full-blown controversy with layers. If you haven't been locked in on every detail, here's the breakdown of why people are heated and why this story won't die down. Logan Paul owns one of the rarest Pokémon cards ever made, the Pikachu Illustrator graded PSA 10. In the collecting world, that card is the holy grail. There's only one known copy in that condition, and the value has climbed past $10 million. That's not hype.
CoffeeZilla is not a criminal. I called him, I apologize. Step 2, we want to offer a rewards program for players who are disappointed in the status of the game. So essentially, you're going to be able to burn your base egg or your base animal for the mint price, which was 0.1 ETH or the equivalent in BNB. I am personally committing 1,000 ETH to this, which is about $1.3 million.
That's serious money. But instead of just keeping it as a trophy piece, Logan turned it into a business move. He co-founded a company called Liquid Marketplace, a platform built to let fans buy fractional ownership in high-value collectibles. So people weren't buying the card itself, they were buying shares connected to it. On paper, they owned a slice of history. The platform didn't just test the waters, it moved serious money. Over $2.5 million in shares tied to that single card were sold, covering more than half of its ownership on paper. The whole pitch sounded smooth and futuristic. Investors were told they would collectively own the card and even have a say in whether it would be sold later or held for the long run. It was sold as power to the people, but on a digital ledger. Logan pushed this idea hard, even taking it to primetime television and publicly suggesting this kind of play could outperform traditional stocks and other mainstream investments. That's when things started looking shaky. Liquid Marketplace began facing major operational problems. Users said they couldn't withdraw their money, couldn't sell their shares, and couldn't access the funds they believed they owned. The complaints kept stacking up fast. While users were locked out and waiting for answers, Logan quietly bought back the card himself without any public vote or investor approval. Just like that, the card was back under his control. Investors were left stuck, staring at a platform listing a card the company no longer controlled, and Logan later flipped it again for over $10 million. And that's not even the end of it. This video will also dig into other past Pokémon controversies involving Logan. For a lot of serious collectors, Logan's short run in the Pokémon world didn't just make noise, it left scars. Trust took a hit, and people in the community started looking at everything sideways. Now we've got to talk about the so-called PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator card. Logan Paul currently claims to own it, but according to multiple Pokémon card experts and longtime collectors, the condition doesn't seem to match that flawless standard he keeps promoting. For years, Logan has flexed this card as a PSA 10, saying it's the only one in the world in perfect condition. He's presented it like it's untouched, museum level, basically royalty in cardboard form. But here's the reality. A PSA 10 is the highest grade issued by Professional Sports Authenticator. That means 4 razor-sharp corners, clean edges, perfect focus, full original gloss, and 0 visible stains, scratches, or surface damage. 0 room for error. And the gap between a PSA 9 and a PSA 10, that can mean millions of dollars. So yeah, the details matter big time. The problem started when close-up images of the back of Logan's card began circulating online. People zoomed in, compared notes, and started asking serious questions about whether this card is really as pristine as advertised.
I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for how this has unfolded thus far, and I want people to know that they can trust me and that I'll always take care of the fans and people who support me. And lastly, thank you, CoffeeZilla. You have catalyzed this, and I am very grateful for your work and your investigation.
I think the deal needs to be sweet. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, since I know that you want cash now, what if you can walk out of here with a check for $1.5 million?
Okay. me walking out of here with essentially would be an advance.
Yes.
Is appetizing. This particular piece means a lot to me. The 1.5 is nice, but we know his card's going to sell for 1.5.
Of course it's going to go for more, yes.
So it may need to be a little higher.
What would make you happy walking out of here lay with?
Today, right now.
Right now.
You will write the check right now.
Yes.
Got an expensive wedding. 3 million?
3 million, I'll tell you what. What I can do and I can justify, write your check right now for $2.5 million. In fact,
This guy's crazy.
2.5 mil. You have a deal?
You are a crazy person.
I've been told that before.
I have to say, my heart tells me to do this deal with you, and so I will do the deal with you.
Great. Great.
Now give me that.
Then, the close-up shots really started making waves. Viewers noticed visible marks, tiny scratches, and edge wear that didn't line up with what people expect from a flawless PSA 10. Critics immediately asked how those kinds of flaws could show up on a card that's supposed to meet the absolute highest grading standard. A few defenders stepped in, saying the damage might just be on the protective case, not the card itself, especially since Logan has been seen wearing the card on a chain while moving around. But that explanation didn't sit right with everyone. Some collectors pointed to whitening along the edges that looked more like real cardware, not just scuffs on plastic. To them, it didn't add up. On top of that, Logan's social media comments remained turned off, limiting public discussion. That silence only made people more suspicious and pushed the speculation even further. Things heated up again when a Pokémon community figure known as Rattle Pokémon shared images reportedly taken by a previous owner of the same Pikachu Illustrator card. Those photos appeared to show the card graded lower in the past, raising serious questions about how it was later presented as a PSA 10 while being tied to investor promotions on Liquid Marketplace. Then more images started spreading online, and they didn't look great at all. The Pikachu Illustrator card was shown sitting in some seriously questionable spots. In one photo, it's laid out near a greasy pizza box. There's a vacuum cleaner in the background, a half-finished protein shake on the side, and someone wearing a gaming headset nearby. People joked that it looked like the card was being trained to bulk up into a PSA 10, but the laughs faded fast. The vibe shifted from funny to flat-out concerned. These pictures hit hard because they backed up claims that the card had previously been graded as a PSA 9. Rattle Pokémon shared more context, explaining that the card had a documented grading history that didn't match the flawless image later used to promote it. According to that information, the card had been graded a 9 multiple times before eventually landing a 10 under very different grading conditions at the time. Back then, PSA, or Professional Sports Authenticator, didn't put much weight on Pokémon cards. Submissions were cheap, sometimes around $10, and grading standards were often seen as inconsistent. Collectors would resubmit the same card again and again, hoping for a better score. That kind of system opened the door for cards to climb into higher grades without major physical changes, and that's where even more questions started popping up. According to discussions in the replies under those viral posts, Logan's card was reportedly graded a PSA 9 multiple times before finally being bumped up to a 10 and sold with that elite label. That detail alone had collectors raising eyebrows. Another collector on Twitter, Bitterbladed Trad, shared zoomed-in images of what a verified PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator is supposed to look like. That example showed razor-clean edges, zero whitening, no scratches, and a flawless surface. No debate, no guessing, just perfection. When people lined up that confirmed PSA 10 next to Logan's card, the differences stood out fast. Even experienced collectors in the replies pointed out that the PSA 10 standard leaves absolutely no room for visible wear. It has to look untouched, pristine, almost frozen in time as if it was never handled. That's the bar. To keep a card at a true PSA 10 level, it usually sits sealed and stored safely for years, sometimes locked away until the day it's sold. That's the collector standard most serious buyers respect. Logan, on the other hand, has treated this card in a much more public way. He's worn it on a massive chain at public appearances, including WWE events, walking around with it constantly. Even though it's sealed in a protective case, that kind of movement can create vibration, friction, and long-term stress. Over time, that wear can slowly impact edges and surfaces, and that's why so many people are questioning the situation now.
Are ways to spend and invest your money in ways that might mean more to you than a traditional conservative investment like the stock market. Whether it's a trading card, a piece of art, a piece of a dinosaur, like a sports memorabilia, game worn, anything.
In one of his own vlogs, Logan openly admitted that the card was damaged. While it was on display, he posted a video reacting angrily after finding out someone had mishandled it. During Fanatics Fest, according to Logan, the card suffered damage while being showcased. This is the same one-of-one PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator he valued at over $5 million. Hearing that shocked a lot of collectors who know how fragile top-grade cards really are. When you're talking about a supposed flawless PSA 10, even minor damage is a big deal. And before we even get into the deeper issues around investor losses, it's important to remember this wasn't Logan's first major Pokémon controversy. Back in December 2021, he announced that he had bought a sealed first edition Pokémon base set booster box case for around $3.5 million. That deal made huge headlines at the time. But then came the twist. The box was revealed to contain G.I. Joe cards instead of Pokémon packs. The situation was labeled by many as one of the biggest fraud incidents in Pokémon collecting history. Some people laughed and called it karma. Others in the Pokémon community were not amused at all. A lot of experienced collectors believed the whole situation was exaggerated or possibly staged for attention, which only added more tension to his reputation in the space.
Oh my God, God, bro. G.I. Joe? G.I. Joe? G.I. Joe! It could have been anything else!
Once people started digging into the details, the whole situation looked extremely questionable. The box first showed up on the Canadian version of eBay on March 29, 2021. The auction ran for 10 days and was posted by a seller with almost no feedback and a username that had recently been changed. The listing itself had grammar mistakes all over it and offered no clear history or proven provenance for something supposedly worth millions. That alone had collectors side-eyeing the entire thing. Veteran collectors immediately flagged it as suspicious. High-end Pokémon items at that level are almost always sold through trusted brokers or major auction houses. They don't usually pop up from unknown eBay accounts with no real track record. For many serious collectors, that detail made the story hard to believe from the start. And it didn't stop there. As more people looked into it, the red flags just kept stacking up. The seller gave multiple conflicting stories about where the box came from. In one version, he claimed he bought it from an elderly woman. In another, he said it was a gift from his 12th birthday. Later, he suggested it was discovered in an attic after purchasing a house. The timeline didn't line up, and the explanations kept shifting, which only made the whole situation look even more shaky. None of the stories matched, and none of them came with real proof. Still, that didn't stop a few buyers from placing massive bids, with prices climbing into the millions before 2021. So when Logan Paul announced he had purchased the box for $3.5 million, the Pokémon community was stunned. People couldn't believe it. The reaction was instant confusion. Collectors, professional graders, and long-established experts across YouTube, Twitter, and private forums were all saying the same thing. The box showed obvious signs of being fake, or at least heavily tampered with. From the wrapping to the labeling, things just didn't look right. That's why so many questioned why Logan would move forward with a deal that raised so many red flags in the first place. When the box was finally opened and revealed to be filled with G.I. Joe cards, Logan ended up receiving a refund. But skeptics weren't convinced it was just a simple mistake. They pointed out that this wasn't his first dramatic reveal. In the past, Logan had posted videos reacting to fake Pokémon cards, including one where he appeared shocked and smashed a glass display after claiming he had been scammed. For some viewers, the pattern felt way too familiar. Because of that history, a lot of people believe Logan understands exactly how viral outrage works and how to turn controversy into clicks. Critics argue that the $3.5 million price tag may not have been as straightforward as it sounded, suggesting it could have functioned more like a headline number than a fully paid cash deal. That massive valuation grabbed attention instantly and dominated conversations across the collecting world. The theory floating around is that attaching such a huge number made it easier to market the box later through fractional ownership platforms like Liquid Marketplace, following a similar pattern people claim was used with the Pikachu Illustrator card.
Wants to place an irrevocable bid on the Illustrator. Let me explain what that means. Ahead of the auction, someone will agree to put a pre-placed bid on the card. So if it doesn't hit that number, it gets sold to them at that number. If it goes above the number that they put, take the final sale price and their number, that difference, they get 10% of. So it's a way for someone to, it's almost like a business move. Someone did this with a fucking Birkin bag. He put a $3 million irrevocable bid on a Birkin bag. The Birkin sold for 10 million. The difference between 3 million and 10 million is 7 million. He got 10% of 7 million. So he made 700K in a night by doing nothing, other than giving the confidence that it was gonna go above 3 million. Someone apparently wants to put a $5 million irrevocable bid on the Illustrator, which I just don't. I think it's too low, so I said no. It's cool though, it's cool because like people obviously have confidence in the car.
And it didn't stop there. Around the same time, Logan pulled a PSA 10 first edition Charizard and announced plans to auction it off. That alone would have made headlines in the collecting world. But then he publicly tweeted about the sale while also directing attention to a betting platform called Polymarket. That's where things started to feel a little wild. On Polymarket, users could place wagers on whether the card would sell, which blurred the line between serious collecting and straight-up entertainment. The betting focused on whether the final price would cross certain thresholds. In his tweet, Logan mentioned outcomes like the card selling for over $500,000 or even over $700,000. Those numbers weren't small talk. They set the stage. Almost instantly, critics started connecting dots. Some speculated that Logan himself could place a wager predicting the card would exceed $700,000, then influence the outcome by bidding aggressively in his own auction. The theory laid out by skeptics was simple but bold. If someone had the platform, the money, and the spotlight, they could potentially shape the result while cashing in on both sides of the hype. Critics say the play could be simple. He could enter the auction himself and place a bid just above that key number, maybe $705,000. That single move would trigger the bet payout on the platform. After that, he could step back from the auction and let another buyer finish the deal, while he potentially walks away with winnings from the betting side. Now, to be clear, this remains an allegation, not a proven fact. But many collectors argue that even the possibility raises serious ethical concerns. To them, it blurs the line between promotion, speculation, and possible market manipulation. On top of that, Logan reportedly earns a percentage from the final sale price. Critics claim that creates an incentive to push the number as high as possible. From their perspective, it starts to look like a closed loop where attention, betting activity, and auction results all circle back to benefit the same person. Collectors who've been in the game for years say this kind of setup damages trust in the hobby. Some also push back against the idea of so-called Logan provenance being marketed as extra value. Longtime enthusiasts argue that celebrity ownership doesn't automatically increase a card's worth. In some cases, they believe it can actually make serious buyers more cautious, not more excited. Collectors also bring up other grading controversies linked to Logan. His 1999 base set first edition Charizard reportedly failed a cross-grade attempt in the past, meaning it didn't receive the higher labels some expected. Yet later, it surfaced with a BGS 10 grade. That jump raised serious eyebrows in the community. For many longtime collectors, that kind of leap fuels bigger concerns about transparency and consistency in high-end grading. All of that circles the spotlight right back to Liquid Marketplace. Logan co-founded the platform around 2020, and one of its headline listings was his PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator card, valued at roughly $5 million at the time. Fans and investors bought around $2.5 million worth of shares, which on paper gave the public majority ownership. That wasn't just symbolic. It meant investors collectively had decision-making power over the card's future, including whether it would be sold or held long-term. What really made people stop and stare was a tweet where Logan openly said he bought the card back from Liquid Marketplace for around $250,000. That number was only a fraction of the valuation tied to the shares previously sold. Critics argue that this meant Logan regained control of the card while investors were still stuck. At the same time, users reported frozen withdrawals and said their funds were inaccessible. Millions of dollars were effectively locked up, and not long after, Liquid Marketplace quietly shut down operations, leaving a cloud of frustration hanging over the entire situation. The platform no longer operates, and no clear resolution was ever laid out for users who believed they owned fractional shares of the card. For many of them, the silence hit harder than the headlines. They thought they had a stake in something historic, and then the entire system just went dark. Throughout all of this, Rattle Pokémon and other voices in the community kept breaking down the fine print and mechanics behind Liquid Marketplace. They pointed out terms and structures that a lot of everyday users may not have fully understood at the time. The core promise sounded simple and exciting. Investors believed they were buying real ownership, earning from future upside, and gaining voting power over what happened next. Instead, critics argue the final outcome looked nothing like that promise, and that disconnect is where most of the frustration still lives.
If you know how much you're going to bid on it, if you want to create a new record sale for something, you're going to make some of your money back because you can just gamble on it. That it is the most crooked, nonsensical shit, and it needs to be regulated. It's terrible. How about a nice little $105,000 discount on your purchase if you gamble on something that you're bidding on that you can control whether it goes over or under 700K. That in itself is bad. If enough people are on here, that number can increase. If you have something that sells for 700K and you're getting 100K off and you're getting a percentage from the sale itself, that's a fake comp. This is just bad. And then we have the same thing for the Illustrator in terms of manipulation. And that's not to mention the fact that there can be insider trading, insider information in terms of like, oh, I'm gonna bid over 700K. So anyone can bid on that. Now, whether or not you'd want to do that.
Logan regained the asset. The platform shut down. Users were left without payouts, updates, or real transparency. To many watching from the outside, that raised serious questions about how the whole structure was designed from day one and who actually benefited when everything settled. People also started questioning the bigger picture. Logan is already wealthy from YouTube, Prime, WWE, sponsorships, and multiple business ventures. Yet controversies like Crypto Zoo and Liquid Marketplace keep circling back around his name. That pattern has pushed some fans and collectors to ask a blunt question. Why launch additional high-risk ventures involving supporters in the first place? The most confusing part for many is accountability. Logan was a co-founder. He listed his own card. Fans put in real money believing they were buying legitimate ownership. Then the company shut down, and the asset ended up back in his control. From the outside looking in, it feels to critics like a setup where losses landed on the public while control stayed private. That perception alone has done serious damage to trust. All of that confusion naturally leads to questions about oversight. When situations like this unfold, people start wondering where regulators step in. Interestingly, in June 2024, attention shifted toward the Ontario Securities Commission, known as the OSC. The OSC is an independent Crown agency responsible for regulating Ontario's capital markets, enforcing securities laws, and protecting investors from potential fraud. And once regulators enter the conversation, things can escalate quickly. That's when regulators officially stepped in. The Ontario Securities Commission launched a formal investigation into Liquid Marketplace, and based on public filings, they believed there was enough evidence to move toward enforcement action. One headline summed it up in a blunt way, stating that the OSC accused Liquid Marketplace of fraud and took action against top executives at the startup. In its June 19th enforcement application, the OSC alleged that senior leadership at the Logan Paul co-founded NFT and collectibles platform misused roughly $3 million in investor funds for personal benefit. The executives named in the filing were Ryan Bahadur, Nick Dale, and Dennis Domer. Logan Paul himself was not named in the proceedings, which quickly became another major talking point. According to the OSC, these executives illegally diverted investor money, gave misleading information when questioned by regulators, and violated Ontario securities laws. The commission claims that about $3 million of the more than $10 million raised from investors was misappropriated through hidden payments to shell companies allegedly connected to the executives, along with interest-free personal loans that were never repaid. The filing also alleged that company funds were used for personal expenses. The OSC stated that Bahadur alone allegedly charged nearly $500,000 in personal spending to company credit cards. These expenses reportedly included luxury clothing, high-end jewelry and watches, personal wellness services, and spa treatments. If proven true, those details paint a picture that's hard for investors to ignore. Another major focus of the investigation centered on the sale of roughly $2.7 million in tokens connected to the Pikachu Illustrator card. According to the OSC, those tokens were unregistered securities. Regulators alleged that buyers were told the tokens represented legal ownership of the underlying collectible, which is a serious claim. That detail alone changed the tone of the entire situation. The OSC also stated that investors were allegedly told the assets were fully authenticated, appraised, and insured. Regulators claim those statements were misleading. According to the Commission, these alleged misrepresentations exposed investors to risks that were never clearly disclosed, caused financial losses, and financially benefited Liquid Marketplace and certain associates. That's a heavy accusation with major consequences if proven true. The OSC recommended penalties of up to $1 million per violation, along with the surrender of any gains obtained. Based on the filings, regulators appear to be trying to recover funds and hold those responsible accountable. Any recovered profits booklets, along with fines of up to $1 million per violation, would be surrendered with the intention of potentially compensating affected investors. For many people watching this unfold, the biggest frustration is that Logan Paul was not named in the enforcement action, even though he has publicly described himself as a co-founder of Liquid Marketplace in multiple videos. That gap between public branding and legal filings raised serious eyebrows across the internet.
The shady terms of the platform. And then we may allow users to purchase all of the tokens associated with a certain collectible without the other token holders associated with that collectible executing a sale. Is this what happened? So the scammers on the platform. So did Logan get permission from the scammers? He's not a scammer, but the scammers on the platform gave him permission to buy out the item. Does that make him a scammer too? And then down below at the bottom, it says you understand and agree that where enabled on the platform in our sole discretion, buyouts may allow your tokens to be purchased from you by another user at the price determined by the buyout premium, and that such buyouts may occur without you executing a sale. So they went from, we're going to auction it off, and then I guess they would have to pretend that there was more people, invested into the item itself than there actually was. But then I guess we got filings coming up here. Let's just do the emergency buyout. Fractional ownership and stuff is dumb. Calling it Liquid Marketplace is dumb because it was the most illiquid thing you could possibly put your money into, because you could never get your money out.
Logan has openly called himself a co-founder on camera, and those clips have circulated everywhere. They were even shown earlier in this video. So naturally, people started asking the obvious question. If he publicly embraced that title, why doesn't his name appear in the official enforcement filings? That disconnect immediately sparked debate online. In a separate article, Logan said he intends to make investors whole and ensure people receive compensation. On paper, that sounds reassuring. But skepticism is still running high. A lot of that doubt comes from his past. Critics point out that during the CryptoZoo controversy, Logan made very similar promises. He publicly said he would repay users and even acknowledged mistakes on video, thanking CoffeeZilla for bringing attention to the situation. Yet years later, many affected users claim they are still waiting, with no full repayments and no clear timeline. That frustration is part of why CoffeeZilla pursued legal action, arguing that public exposure alone has not resulted in real accountability. To many observers, the pattern feels familiar. Controversy erupts, promises are made, attention shifts elsewhere, and the financial fallout lingers in the background. For a growing number of collectors and investors, that cycle has become hard to ignore. Another criticism picking up serious traction is the claim that the prices attached to Logan's cards are heavily inflated.
And the future is looking bright, and I could not be more pumped to be me.
Pokemon is blowing up. I have no doubt in my mind this card will be worth $1 million between 2 and 3 years.
Many longtime collectors argue the valuations being promoted don't reflect natural market demand. Instead, they believe the numbers were pushed higher through publicity, celebrity status, and non-stop hype. When Logan first entered the Pokemon space, he came in loud with massive spending and viral stunts that pulled mainstream eyes into the hobby and sent prices climbing fast. More recently, Logan and Ken Golden have heavily promoted the Pikachu Illustrator card, dropping content focused on its rarity, projected value, and upcoming auction. Critics argue that this steady stream of exposure feels strategic. In their view, the constant spotlight builds pressure and excitement right before the card hits Golden's auction platform, setting the stage for what could be labeled a record-breaking sale, driven more by marketing momentum than pure collector fundamentals. In the next clip, someone places a $3 million bid on the card. Logan immediately responds that it's worth far more than that. That reaction stuck with a lot of viewers. To critics, it captures the entire tone of this situation. Every step appears geared toward maximizing the number through hype, urgency, and relentless promotion. The card is continuously marketed as the most expensive Pokemon card ever and framed as the biggest auction in hobby history. As of January 26, 2026, the public bid reportedly sits around $5.1 million. But that leads to a tough question collectors keep asking. How can anyone be fully sure those bids are legitimate and not just part of the spectacle? There's zero public transparency around whether some of these bids could be proxy offers that push the price higher on paper. And that uncertainty is exactly what has seasoned collectors so frustrated. From their point of view, Logan entered the Pokémon space with splashy purchases, headline-grabbing numbers, speculative platforms, and a trail of controversy that still hasn't settled. Critics argue that if this were purely about love for collecting, the strategy would look completely different. Traditional collecting is built on preservation, history, and respect for the community. It's usually quiet, careful, and long-term. What they've seen instead feels like non-stop viral moments mixed with aggressive monetization at every turn. From fractional ownership plays, to betting market tie-ins, to constant auction hype, the card has often been treated more like a financial asset than a piece of hobby history. That shift in mindset has rubbed a lot of longtime fans the wrong way and, according to many voices in the space, pushed some collectors away entirely. For now, this is where the latest chapter stands in the ongoing Logan Paul Pokémon card controversies and the ripple effect they've had across the collecting community.